First, here's the big news development. A fresh sting where Arvind Kejriwal is heard abusing his former close colleagues Prashant, Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav.
मैं इस लड़ाई झगड़े के लिए नहीं आया था, मेरे को कोई इंटरेस्ट नहीं है इसमें। आप प्रशांत भूषण और योगेंद्र यादव के साथ आप मिलकर काम कीजिए, आपको मेरी बहुत बहुत शुभकामनाएं। मैं इस लड़ाई झगड़े के लिए नहीं आया था, अगर जरूरत पड़ी तो मैं आम आदमी पार्टी छोड़ के अलग पार्टी बनाने की सोच रहा हूँ। आप लोग संभालिए आम आदमी पार्टी, बहुत अच्छी टीम है। प्रोफेसर आनंद कुमार, पिछले 4 दिन में प्रोफेसर आनंद कुमार और अजीत झा ने जो करी है, मतलब इतना। उन्होंने कहा आरटीआई लागू करो, हमने आरटीआई लागू कर, हमने कहा ठीक है तैयार है, बातचीत चल रही है अभी दोनों गुटों में। उन्होंने कहा वॉलंटियर्स पार्टिसिपेट, हमने सारी बातें उनकी मान ली। अब कल वो कहते हैं ये तो हम बार्गेनिंग कर रहे थे, हमारा ये इन चीजों में तो इंटरेस्ट है। तो इतने तुम लोग क्या बार्गेनिंग कर रहे हो? तुम लोग इतने घटिया किस्म के इंसान हो तुम लोग, जो कम कैपेबिलिटी वाली हमारी टीम कह रहे हो ना। ये प्योर आदमी है, हमारे में क्षमता कम हो सकती है लेकिन हम दिल के काले नहीं है। ये लोग दिल के काले और ये लोग एक नंबर के लोग हैं। तो आपको शुभकामनाएं उमेश।
सर ऐसा मत समझिए।
सुनिए, मेरे को इसके ऊपर और कोई चर्चा नहीं करनी है, इसलिए मैंने अलग कर रखा है। अब ये देख लेते हैं क्या करने हैं, नहीं तो मैं अपने 67 एमएलए लेके अलग हो जाऊंगा।
All right, very harsh words there from Arvind Kejriwal. Almost unimaginable that he would use such words in referring to Prashant Bhushan and Yogendra Yadav, 2 of his closest colleagues. We'll be getting an interview from Prashant Bhushan in a little while from now, bringing you that interview which he spoke to me just a few hours back, in fact. But at this stage, to discuss this latest sting, news of which has broken just an hour or so back, Professor Rakesh Sinha, National Executive Member of the Aam Aadmi Party, with us, somebody who was close to Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan, and Somnath Bharti, a National Executive Member of the Aam Aadmi Party, somebody who is close to Arvind Kejriwal. Somnath Bharti, let me come to you first, Mr. Bharti. Okay, I'm told we don't have Somnath Bharti as yet, but let me come across to you, Professor Sinha. Do you basically see this as the last day that Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan will remain in the Aam Aadmi Party? Tomorrow they'll be asked to leave. Is it almost inevitable that they would now need to leave, particularly after this abuse?
Well, they've already been asked to resign from national executive repeatedly, and that in fact is the sticking point in this so-called negotiations. Listening to the outburst from Arvind, I was quite surprised, because I don't expect this kind of language and this kind of sentiment from someone like Arvind Kejriwal. The Arvind Kejriwal I have known till now, but this presents a new face of Arvind Kejriwal to me, which is there for everyone to see. But there is no truth in his allegation that there was any bargaining going on. There were only 5 written points that were submitted to the team sent by him for negotiations. Those points have been repeatedly asserted again and again, even during this afternoon's press conference. And those are the only points.
Professor
on
Sinha,
which
I just want to focus a little bit more on this thing. We'll come to those points. Somnath Bharti, does anything justify Arvind Kejriwal abusing Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan in this manner? He later on says that had this been any other party, they would have been kicked out of that party. And prior to that, he was using fairly abusive language. Does anything justify this outburst? Anything at all?
Vishnu, I do agree this word is not justified, but try to look at it, that this man has been forced by the situation to an extent that he was sort of forced to use this language. That is, the gravity of the situation is such severe that this man, who has never ever been seen abusing anybody, I do not yet know what is the truthfulness of this tape, but this man, who was not ever seen by anybody, so far whatever interactions I've had with him, any kind of abuse coming out of him, has been cornered in a situation like this. He has been forced to use such a language. We need to understand that other than this word, the entire conversation is literally bringing out what was being transpired in the party,
No,
what was happening in the party.
Somnath, I disagree with you
what?
for one small point.
To an extent
there is one word which is used, and that word is abusive. But the content of the sting is much more than just that one abusive word.
No.
It's also of him saying, had this been any other party, they would have kicked out these two leaders from that party. Had Yadav and Bhushan been in any other party, right? That was a very harsh statement. Much harsher in my mind than just that use of that one abusive word.
If you recall, prior to Delhi election, what sort of allegations and what sort of attempts were made by these two individuals and Santi Bhushanji as well, that the party should lose Delhi election. Now, what more do you need to call somebody anti-party person? If you look at the entire situation in a democratic setup, when a decision is taken in a meeting, democratically by majority,
they say that it's not democratic.
No person of the among the attendees have a right to go out and say a different thing.
Professor Sinha, Somnath says that the Aam Aadmi Party is inherently democratic, but the central argument being raised by Prashant Bhushan that it's not, it's dictatorial.
Aam Aadmi Party should be democratic, but the way things are playing out, it doesn't seem to be. What Somnath ji has been talking about, these are allegations that are totally unfounded. Two accusations have been made against these people. One, that they are trying to remove Arvind Kejriwal from the leadership position, which is totally baseless. And the second thing, that these people were trying to work, in fact, they were working against party. If you've seen what Yogendra was doing during the elections, the way he was going to different constituencies, holding meetings, holding some public meetings, doing everything possible, working as spokesperson of the party, defending party in all the cases, even where he himself had questions, defending everywhere. How can this allegation be made? Is there any basis for this allegation? I think the pressure that Somnath was talking about, that he is being pushed into a corner, is of his own making and with the help of some people who are...
But Somnath, how serious, let me ask you this, how serious is Arvind Kejriwal about moving away from the Aam Aadmi Party with his supporters, forming another political party, just as an effort of ensuring that he is distanced from these two leaders? Because he says that repeatedly in this thing.
Vishnu, very interestingly, if you look at, in last 1 month, there have been attempts after attempts to discredit Arvind Kejriwal, to malign him. How come these private conversations are, Vishnu, I'm very well aware, if private conversations of an individual live, they get recorded, we will be nowhere. Your news channel or Times Now or any news channel would not be anywhere in these private conversations which are held at the back of the camera if they get recorded. What I'm saying, there is a deliberate attempt which was happening for last 9 to 10 months to record private conversations and to malign some individual at a
Somnath, I take your point completely.
This
private
is very dangerous.
Conversations recorded
and then
out
you say
of
there is no
context,
conspiracy.
That's unfair.
Then you say,
isn't this your own doing, Somnath? Your stings have come to, you're being stung now by stings.
No.
Arvind goes out and makes radio statements telling people to do sting operations. Today he is stung not once but twice. There's a strange irony in that.
No, I would like to...
Somnath Bharti, go ahead.
Vishnu, you're right. But what I'm saying that, for God's sake, none of the conversations so-called recorded of Arvind Kejriwal to discredit him, to malign him, have succeeded. Not at all.
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, at this stage you can say it's not succeeded because he's in a majority.
Individual or a party.
But Somnath, you have very deftly avoided my question. You have very deftly avoided my question. Arvind Kejriwal repeatedly says he is willing to form a new party with his supporters. Is that what's going to happen?
No, that shows the frustration of the man. If at all the contents of the tape are true, that shows how frustrated he is. He is here given a mandate by the people of Delhi to govern.
So he won't do that. He's not going to try and form a separate party.
He's not. He's basically saying, I'm not here I'm not here to provide a platform to people.
Somnath, you are definitely avoiding my question. Yes or no? Will the Aam Aadmi Party exist, or will Kejriwal walk away from the Aam Aadmi Party with his supporters? The government will be secure, but form a new political formation, whatever it is called.
See, Vishnu, many a times at our houses, in conversation, we tell our family, look, if you do this, we'll leave the house.
So he's not
leaving the house.
He's not going to do that.
It's not the case. The case is private conversations, if left for public scrutiny, I mean, would end many people's lives games.
Okay, Priya James is an Aam Aadmi Party volunteer. She joins us from the United States. She scripted, made and edited 200 plus videos for the Aam Aadmi Party. Priya James, are you disillusioned, disappointed, perturbed at what has happened with the Aam Aadmi Party? This is a party split down the middle.
Indeed, I am disappointed. But listening to Somnath Bharati, I just want to tell him one thing. Thousands of us, thousands of volunteers joined this movement and worked for it because we believed that in an idea that Arvind Kejriwal was telling. It was not to make Arvind Kejriwal or Prashant Bhushan or Yogendra Yadav or Somnath Bharati a leader. We wanted a better India. That was the reason. I think right now, that whole thing is lost.
Okay.
No one is talking about those aspects. Every leader is coming and saying, oh, he is telling about this guy, that guy is telling about this guy. I mean, this is not about leaders.
Okay.
Arvind Kejriwal, he himself used to say, it's not about him. Now I see the irony, like, the supporters are being Catholic more than Pope.
Okay.
So, all I want to say is, we all work so hard so that there will be change in the political system of India. Not make one person leader or take him away
okay, Priya,
his position.
Priya, I take your point completely.
May I, Vishnu, if you allow
yeah,
me?
Somnath, just very briefly, if you can just display. She has a point. She's upset. She's an AAP volunteer.
Yeah,
she's worked hard.
Yeah, Priya, no, she has a point. We all have a point. And I agree with her. In fact, there are thousands of volunteers, lakhs of volunteers across the world, across the nation who have helped this movement transform into a political party. And I agree with her. The basic design of this political party is to bring a change in the political system.
Okay.
And that is what we are hankering after. If you look at the entire wordings of Arvind Kejriwal, it is saying that I'm not here to fight Yogendra Yadav or Prashant Bhushan.
Well, that seems, but he's doing that, it seems.
I'm here to fight
corrupt. Okay, well, let's hope that there is not just corruption, but there is also the issue of development in Delhi, and a lot of people in the national capital who are looking at this completely aghast. I'd like to thank all of you very much for joining us tomorrow. Very important meeting of the BJP's national executive. What happens to Yadav and Bhushan then? Ahead of what is likely to be a stormy national executive session of the Aam Aadmi Party, the meltdown within the party was all too evident yet again today, with the war of allegations and counter-allegations breaking out between Yogendra Yadav and Prashant Bhushan on the one hand, and those close to Arvind Kejriwal on the other. People in the national capital will be wondering how a party that they recently voted in a landslide victory can actually solve Delhi's problems if they cannot resolve problems internally. Well, joining us now to look at this, the senior leader Prashant Bhushan. Sir, thank you very much for speaking to us. Tomorrow is going to be a very big day for the Aam Aadmi Party. What happens, sir, if you and Yogendra Yadav are asked to resign? What will you do?
You see, the National Council is free to pass a resolution saying that we are expelled from the National Executive. If that happens, then the two of us go out of the National Executive. But in my view, that's not very important. What happens to us is not very important. What's really important is to see whether the party will be able to bring itself back on its original founding principles of transparency, accountability, inner party democracy and Swaraj. Principles which are in now very serious danger of being compromised.
If Arvind Kejriwal were to be removed or was to step down as the Aam Aadmi Party chief, you would be satisfied? Bottom line, all of this would go away in your opinion?
Not at all. That's not the issue at all. The issue is these internal reforms in the party.
No, but these internal
we have
reforms
to bring the
can be
party
decided by
back to its
Arvind
founding
Kejriwal,
principles.
or they cannot be decided on by Arvind Kejriwal. Thus far, he disagrees, as you yourself have said, on many of these points. So, do you maintain that if Kejriwal was not the chief minister, perhaps not the head of the Aam Aadmi Party, these issues would be resolved?
No, no. You see, the problem is that unfortunately, Arvind's writ appears to be running in the decision-making bodies of the party as they stand presently.
Yes.
Now, there are not many people in the decision-making bodies who are willing to stand up to him and say, no, there are a few people, but they are in a minority. And as far as I can understand it, his main reason for seeking to remove us and his main reason for saying that he can't work with us is because of our, or at least my, putting my foot down on several issues,
but sir,
which I felt are issues of principle.
Sir, there is a sense that too much democracy is also not a good thing. That at the end of the day, when everybody has an opinion on important issues, many of these are not objective subjects, these are subjective decisions. Everybody has a right to a decision, but ultimately to a view, but ultimately one person has to decide. Otherwise, a party cannot function, a government cannot function. One person takes the call. So therefore, if it's Arvind versus you or Arvind versus Yogendra Yadav, there is bound to be at some stage a problem. You seem to have a view which is not his.
No, no. No, I am not saying that you go by my view. I am saying that you go by the majority
where does
view.
the buck stop, sir? The buck has to stop with one person. A lot of people would say. A lot of people would say it has to stop with one person. One person has to decide. That's a fundamental ideological difference, sir. Where is the resolution to this?
No, when we had created this party, we had not set out to create a conventional political party which runs on this supremo principle of high command culture and which does all kinds of things, select all kinds of objectionable candidates, uses all kinds of means, is non-transparent, etc. That was not our objective, to just form a political party for the purpose of winning elections and forming governments, etc. The whole object of setting up this political party and the idealism with which lakhs of people came together to create this party was that this would be a vehicle for alternative politics in this country, which would do politics in a completely different manner from other political parties,
in Delhi would also
where
say that
principles of inner party democracy, Swaraj, etc. would prevail.
Sure, people in Delhi say that this is, to use your own word, vehicle. This is a party which is seen to be a vehicle for change, for development in the national capital. Would you agree that this vehicle for change and development in Delhi has derailed because you're still fighting amongst yourselves?
Well, it has certainly suffered a huge setback, and that's the real question. This is the heart of the question. Do we want to run this party like a conventional political party which seeks to deliver whatever development we consider to be good for the common man, or do we want to run it as a party for alternative politics which is true and firm to these principles on the basis of which the party was founded?
Okay.
There was a lot of idealism amongst the volunteers who came and formed this party, and even a large section of people who have voted for this party have voted for it in the belief that this is a completely different kind of party,
so
which is true to its founding principles.
Within the Aam Aadmi Party are as active, are as involved as they ever have been. We've all covered the Aam Aadmi Party, and in some level or the other, it's a party made up of an incredible volunteer cadre. You've just recently come to power in Delhi. Where has this idealism disappeared? People would say it's not disappeared. They want the government to run. Instead, young volunteers are confronted by leading people like you and leading people like Arvind Kejriwal fighting with one another. Where does that leave the volunteers?
No, volunteers are also very anguished. They want the party to be united, but they also want the party to remain true to its principles.
Okay.
They want the party to remain a true vehicle for alternative politics. They are saying with a very loud voice that we did not set out to create a conventional political party which practices all kinds of unethical means to come to power and then promises to remain in power on the strength of various populist promises.
Right.
That's not the object of this party.
Okay. Well, Mr. Bhushan, tomorrow is going to be a big day for you, for Yogendra Yadav, for the Aam Aadmi Party and the people of Delhi as well. Where is the Aam Aadmi Party project heading? What does it mean to people within the party, people outside the party, and to our national capital? Thank you very much for speaking to us.